Vidya Balan, such a pleasure having you here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me over.
It's always such a pleasure chatting to you because you are, without doubt, one of the most down-to-earth personalities in Bollywood. We were just talking, my colleague and I, with you about how we have such fond memories of coming to your home in Mumbai, and we spent so much time going through your career that evening and
Right.
all your iconic roles.
I remember that interview so well.
But
You
now
know,
there's
and,
even...
and you had a little dictaphone on you.
Well, this time we have cameras,
Yes.
this time we have lights. So I want to talk through some of my favourite roles of yours while actually watching some of the visuals back at the same
Oh,
time.
great.
And I want to start with the film Bhulaiyaa in 2007. Let me
Right.
press play here. Now, this is your fourth film, was it?
I'd done Parinita, Munna Bhai, Eklavya,
Hey Baby.
Salame-Ishq, Guru, Hey Baby, Bhulaiyaa was the seventh film.
But you yourself
But you know,
say...
it wasn't like, I'm talking in terms of releases.
Yeah.
But I think they were pretty much being shot parallelly or very close to each other. So,
You yourself have said to me that this was a turning point in your career.
absolutely.
Why so?
You know, because I was playing after Parinita, which was such an author-backed role. I started doing the more fluffy stuff because I wanted to give it a shot. And, you know, I wasn't really enjoying myself. But when Priyadarshan, the director of this film, came to me with Bhulaiyaa, I was like, you know, finally there's something to... something that I can really enjoy, something that I can give myself to completely. And that's what happened. You know, I also think he's a fabulous director. So I was very excited to work with him. And I think what this film did was show the audiences another side to me as an actor.
Were you scared about doing these scenes? Because when I was watching back this song in particular, the lack of vanity here, you don't care where your hair's going, you don't care the fact that there's sweat on your face, you're just so immersed in that role and that character. Is it hard to let go of all those kind of, they're almost inhibitions, aren't they?
Yeah, but you know, Haroon, I have to tell you, I think there's a certain weird streak in me. I actually enjoy... I enjoy doing things that, you know, don't necessarily make me look good, but it gives me an edge. So I think Bhulaiyaa did that. You know, I remember just before the scene, I had my hair done up and all that, and I went on to set, and Priyadarshan came to me and he said, "What is this? Why is your hair like this?" And he pulled out my hair, literally pulled out my hair. And I was like, I'm, you know, I never look into the mirror. I have a team with me that I trust 100%. So I don't feel the need to look into the mirror. And but when he did that, I wanted to see what he had done. You know, so I looked at myself, and I think, you know, everything contributes to you getting into the role, into living that moment. So I think even that hair, those hair strands that he pulled out, gave me a little something and helped me in the performance.
What about the classical dancing here? Did that come to you naturally? Are you trained as a
Not
dancer?
at all. I'm someone with two left feet, honestly.
It doesn't look like it.
No, but you know, I'm petrified of, not anymore actually, but I used to be petrified of dancing. And when I did Bhulaiyaa, Priyadarshan told me, when I asked him, I'm playing someone with dissociative disorder, so do you want me to do any prep, and what sort of prep do you want me to do? And he said, nothing, just learn Bharatnatyam if you can. So actually, whenever I had time in between shoots, I started training in Bharatnatyam.
Wow.
But I was doing too many films at that time. I didn't get too much time. But 2 weeks before we shot the song, I started training daily. Right. You know, even if it was for half an hour or an hour, I started practicing daily, and that really helped. But also, you know, I was exposed to Bharatnatyam, so it wasn't like...
It was new to you?
Yeah, because as a child, I've been trained in Bharatnatyam. You know, I didn't enjoy it much because my classes were on Sunday mornings.
Who wants to go to classes on a Sunday morning?
Exactly. But otherwise, I was kind of familiar with it, so I enjoyed it.
Vidya, did you feel like you had a lot to prove with Bhulaiyaa? Like you said, after Parinita, which was critically acclaimed and a box office success and earned you loads of awards, there was a period where you were part of commercial films that were doing well, but you weren't necessarily getting the shine.
You know, because I think, Haroon, I understood this a little later, that whatever kind of film you do, whatever kind of role you do, your commitment needs to be 100%. I think after Parinita, I was being hailed as a good actor, and there was so much love and appreciation coming my way, and this was all very new to me. And suddenly I began to feel like, oh, these commercial films, what do they really need? I can sleepwalk through them. And really, that didn't work for me. I think I got slapped around quite a bit because my disinterest showed in them.
Did it feel like the opportunity of being a Hindi film actress was slipping away in any way? Because, of course, you'd fought so hard to even get to Parinita. Yeah. I mean, you can correct me if these statistics are wrong, but you had 12 aborted film projects.
Yes.
12 films that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And I thought maybe, this was Parinita, and the next few films, like Munna Bhai, was a huge hit. And thankfully, I was being appreciated for my performances across all the films. But I told myself, I said, maybe, it was a pipe dream, and it was a fluke. It's all over now.
Because we've seen that happen to other people as well.
Yes, absolutely. But, I think I'm very resilient, and this is what I've always wanted to do, and I was living my dream. And I was not going to let anyone or anything take that away from me. Because I love acting. That gives me the greatest joy. And I said, whatever I need to do to turn this around, I'm going to do that.
Let's move on to the second video.
Yes.
My second choice is Ishqiya.
Oh.
I absolutely love Ishqiya. And Vidya, this film was actually released with not much promotion. There wasn't a massive marketing campaign behind it. And you'd had Bar a few months before, I think, right? I think even a couple of months before Bar released.
Yeah, Bar released in December, Ishqiya released in Jan end. And Bar had, again, done really well. As a film, it had also as an actor, it had got me a lot of love, appreciation, my first Best Actress award and all of that. And Ishqiya was, I think, if I may say so, I think I promoted it almost single-handedly. Because Nasir Saab at that point didn't do promotions. Arshad had a lot of other commitments. So I was the only one who ended up going out there and promoting.
You look absolutely beautiful in this scene.
Thank
I just
you.
want to say this is the wedding scene.
Yes.
And it's magical. You've got Rahat Fateh Ali Khan's song here as well. But the way the film was shot, the way you emoted expressions, and I know a lot of people credit Dirty Picture as this more uninhibited Vidya Balan who wasn't scared of showing off her sensuality. But I actually saw glimpses of that in Ishqiya much more.
I think absolutely, and it's one of those rare times when in Hindi cinema you had a femme fatale, and she wore her sexuality on her sleeve, and she knew how to play men to get where she wanted to. I think that was incredible. I enjoy, it actually liberated something in me, because up until then I'd still done a certain kind of film. Of course, there was a Bhulaiyaa, which gave me a certain edge as an actor, or allowed me to explore another side to myself. But this, it actually allowed me to express sexuality. Yeah. And with no skin show, nothing. It was, but I think it was so strong and powerful. I absolutely loved it. It was a play of eyes, and she's one of my favouriteest characters.
Nasiruddin Shah is 30 years older than you. I know you said you love acting, but as an individual, how do you get into the zone where it's not awkward or where it's not weird to be romancing somebody 30 years older than you?
I think when you're in that zone, I, of course, had read the script and loved it and said yes. And I knew it was Nasir Saab who was playing the part of Khalu. And he's such a wonderful actor. I thought it was a great opportunity to act opposite him. But I really don't weigh roles in terms of,
You were only 30 at the time, right? I think you were 30 in 2010.
Yes,
so you probably
I was.
shot this a year before.
Actually, I was 2010, so I was 31.
Right.
Yeah.
Still not the most normal, conventional relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I don't think in terms of age, and the part was exciting. The script was extremely exciting. And they're an exciting bunch of actors. I must tell you that I was warned by some people saying, this is professional harakiri. Yeah. You are making a mistake, because if you're going to be acting with Nasir Saab, who's 30 years older than you, then maybe, where's your career going to go? And I can only tell you that it opened a new chapter for me. Ishqiya did. So I think it's about instinct. It just felt right, and it didn't feel, you know, I would of course be a little, I won't say guarded, but I was a little shy around Nasir Saab because, you know, I tend to laugh a lot. And he has a very serious demeanor. So I would be like a bit conscious saying, oh my God, I hope he's not going to lose, you know, lose his head with me or something. But he was so lovely. And I think when you believe in something, then, you know, the actor's age,
Doesn't matter.
nothing matters.
Vidya, I have to ask you, you're such an inspirational figure for so many women out there because you're so comfortable in your own body type and your own body shape. But when I look at films like Bhulaiyaa or Ishqiya, I see a Vidya Balan who doesn't look like the Vidya Balan today.
Yeah.
Did you feel a pressure to conform to a certain body shape or body type at that phase in your career? Was there pressure to look a certain way?
Yes, I think there was immense pressure. You know, it was barely 3 or 4 years into films when, you know, not 3 or 4 years, sorry, Parinita happened in 2005. By 2007, I'd had 5, 6 releases. And like I said, while thankfully my performances were appreciated, my body came in for a lot of criticisms. You know, there was a lot of body shaming that happened. And I began to feel like, you know, maybe that's going to be my, you know, that's going to be the end of me. You know, I hated my body at that time. I have hated my body for a long time in life because I grew up a fat girl, and you know, you're always being judged for your body, and I always felt lesser in my bigness. I felt small in my bigness. But I think what happened, you know, and then I went through, at various points in life, went through various crash diets or spent 2.5 hours in the gym, did all sorts of crazy things. And I would lose weight. So probably that was a phase when, you know, Bhool Bhulaiyaa and Ishqiya were at that time. And yet there were people who told me that I was not thin enough and I didn't know what to do.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And then when the dirty picture happened, actually there was a shift that happened in me because I put on weight for the dirty picture, and here people were saying, oh my God, how sexy are you looking?
Well, shall we skip to the dirty picture then?
Great.
Because that's my third choice
Oh,
in this.
really?
I have to say that, you know, it's really hard to whittle down your filmography to 5 films, but we can't not
Thank you.
have the dirty picture.
How
How many times, I know this is based on Silk Smita, but how many times did you watch Sridevi's Himmat Wala videos to get into this zone? Because to me, this is Nano Me Sapna.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an ode to the 80s,
Yeah.
you know, the matkas and the oranges and all of that. No, I didn't watch it before the film, though I'd watched it growing up, of course, you know, and you had these weekly programs where they showed you the latest film songs, and I'd watch it. I grew up on that. That was the only thing I was allowed to watch on TV once a week. You know, besides the child-friendly stuff, once a week we were allowed film stuff, which was these songs. So I used to lap it up, you know, and I love Sridevi. So I think that stayed.
You can see the parallels now, though, when you see...
No, but I could see it even then because even the situations are so, you know, similar to the ones used in those films, especially Jitendra Sridevi.
Yeah, of course. You know, I was rewatching the movie award acceptance speech scene in Dirty Picture last night. And it's that kind of confidence that you have on screen, which I rarely see actresses have even today. And we have amazing actresses, no doubt. But, you know, the kind of, again, lack of vanity, lack of inhibitions that you displayed in this film were incredible. How did you get into that zone? How did you, because you were also living the life of a real person.
Yeah, you know, and that's always very tricky. And especially when you don't have access to the person. You know, and all I had was a few videos. I didn't have anything else to fall back on. So I would go to my director's office every day and I'd tell him, you know, we were also doing rehearsals for Ooh La La in his office. So after the rehearsal, I would go into his room and I'd say, you know, can we talk about Silk? And he'd say, there's nothing to talk about Silk. All I want you to remember is that if you judge her, the world will judge her. If you accept her, you know, if you love her just the way she is, the world will do the same. And I used to be like, why is he saying vague things to me, you know? This is really not helpful. I'd ask him questions and he'd literally run away. Every day he'd make up an excuse saying, no, but I have this meeting to go to. And I'd be like, okay, so much for doing a semi-biopic. But, I think I couldn't have gotten a better cue from my director. I think that stayed with me.
Vidya, I think that you were absolutely pivotal and instrumental in breaking the glass ceiling for women in Bollywood. But when you had a phase between 2013 and 2017 where your films weren't working, there were actresses who tried to claim that mantle.
Right.
How did that make you feel? You had really laid the foundations of a film like The Dirty Picture making money at the box office, a film like Kahaani making money at the box office, and here were other actresses almost trying to take that credit.
No, but it's not about credit, Haroon, really, because I laid the foundations knowingly or unknowingly, honestly. It wasn't my doing, it wasn't a strategy. It just so happened that my choices led me there. I was at the right place at the right time. But, you can't leave a structure at the foundation. It has to grow. And everyone contributes to that growth. So, of course, I was heartbroken that my films weren't working. But I didn't grudge those actresses their success or the fact that they were now being called the sheroes.
Of course.
I think all of us have contributed. I can't be the only one hogging that title or the credit.
This film was produced by Balaji, so it was an Ekta Kapoor production. And previously, she'd done films like Kya Cool Hai Hum, Kya Super Cool Hai Hum, which were sex comedies. Here you are wearing not many clothes on screen. How do you have faith that you'll be shown in a sensitive and tasteful eye, almost?
I'd done a show called Hum Panch with Ekta. So my relationship with her went back, to a time before I became a film actor. And I just felt that this film needed a female producer. Yeah. And I knew she wouldn't exploit. I don't know.
Did you worry at all when you were on set? Was there ever phases? Because Silk Smita did live quite an explicit lifestyle.
Yeah. But I think I had immense faith in Ekta and the director, Milan. I just felt, Milan had offered me a few things before The Dirty Picture. For some reason or the other, it hadn't materialized. But there was something about Milan that made me feel like I could trust him. And I only do films when I feel I can trust the people I'm working with. That's very important to me as an actor. And I remember there was one moment on the film, we were shooting this sequence where towards the end of the film, Silk is now gone to, it's like a Spawn film that's being shot. She's not even aware she's there because she's been drugged. And it's a very uncomfortable situation, bordering on the sleazy. So after that, I did the shot. I had to lie back. There was a big man. He had to come down on me, and suddenly there are sirens and you realize that this place has been raided. I did the shot, and when I came to ask Milan if the shot was okay, he had tears in his eyes. And I said, what happened? He said, I just hope I'm able to live up to your faith in me.
Can I ask you, have you ever said no to a film because you're scared of actually having to enact that moment? Because I was interviewing Kajol once, and she said that she said no to Dushman many, many times because she knew that she'd actually have to physically enact the rape scene. She knew that there would be a scene where there is a man on top of her. She has to go through that. Do you ever think about actually having to physically be in the moment while you're reading the script?
No. But I think you read it in the script. I think if it feels true to the context, to the moment, to the overall story, then I'm not someone who's body conscious. So, I never think about, how am I going to do these scenes? I've been absolutely okay with that. But if I feel that it's exploitative in some way, or, it's just been added for the sake of it, then maybe I'll choose not to do it. But otherwise, no, I have no qualms.
The years between 2007 to 2013 were really just amazing for you. It was one film after another. And Kahaani really, in that phase, was the icing on the cake.
Right.
This was in 2012. But I'm going to start off by asking you a controversial question about this film, which is that you'd received so much praise for all of these films, and you won the Best Actress film, Filmfare Award for Kahaani as well. But it was a controversial win. There was a lot of people who wanted Priyanka Chopra to win that award for Burfi. I'm asking you this because you're objective enough
Yeah.
to answer it. Do you think you deserved that award that year?
I do. I think, but I must say, I loved Priyanka's performance in Barfi, and if she had gotten it, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. But I think what probably what probably happened is that Kahaani was riding on me.
Yeah.
So that probably worked in my favor, because you can't compare two performances, they're completely different films. But I think, then these factors come into play, and I think maybe objectively I feel maybe that influenced the jury.
Did that dampen the win at all? Because those kind of reports came out straight away. Even on the night, I remember there being tweets, and Twitter was quite new still back then.
Right.
But there was all this commotion about, Priyanka versus Vidya. Did it dampen the win at all?
No, because I'm, at that point I wasn't on social media at all. Either way, I don't read anything. And, this is a film that we really worked hard to put together, forget to make. It was a big struggle. So for us, it was, and Shujoy had won, and it was feeling so good. Setu, the cinematographer, won that year. I wasn't going to let anything take that away from me. And there will be years when, some people feel a certain actor should have won or a certain film should have won. Some others will feel differently. But that's okay.
I was saying to you when I mentioned Ishqiya, about how you play a character where you've read the script, you know what the end of the film is, you know what this character's motives are. But in Kahaani, you have to convince the audience that you are this woman who's searching for her husband, who is pregnant. How do you make sure that there's no moment where there's even a tiny bit that shows the reality of what's going on?
It was so tricky, Haroon, because actually in Kahaani, I had to know the script. And the script of Kahaani I knew better than any script I had known before, because I was part of the writing process in terms of Shujoy would share every scene he'd written on a day-to-day basis. So I knew that really well. And yet, I had to put that somewhere, like dump it somewhere far behind in my head, because I had to portray, like you're saying, a completely different person. But I guess when you've read the script enough and sat with the director enough, at some moment something happens organically, which I can't describe. And that's what came to my aid. It was probably, I don't know whether you call it divine intervention or magic or whatever, But because when I saw the film, at one moment I was like, because you know what you're capable of as an actor, or
when
what you've done.
When that baby bump gets kicked, spoiler alert for anybody who's not seen it yet, well, they should have. It's been 9 years, I think. Or
7 years.
7 years it's
7
been.
years.
I don't apologise for the spoiler alert, but when you kick the baby bump, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, but when I watched the film, so that's what I'm saying, you know what you've done, and you know what you're capable of. But there was one scene where, we go into the morgue to check out the bodies to see if any one of them is my husband's. And when I come out, I kind of throw up, and then this inspector asks me, he says, are there any relatives? And I look at him and I say, yeah, one uncle in so-and-so place. When I watched the film, I saw the dubiousness in that. When I did it, I wasn't aware of it.
Wow.
So I think when you know a script really well, the person begins to take, a form, shape, life of their own. And that's very exciting as an actor. Because when I saw that moment, I was like, how did I do this? And that doesn't happen very, very often.
My final film role of yours is, of course, Temari Salo, which you are absolutely incredible in, Vidya.
Thank you.
You are flawless in this film.
Thank you.
How do you look back at Temari Salo now?
I was dying to do a comedy for the longest time. Because people were only giving me these really weighty, substantial roles, which were serious. And I wanted to do. And, I'd seen success doing female-centric films, and I was like, why is no one making a comedy, or a slice of life film? And then Suresh Triveni, the director, came to me with this, and I thought that character was, I see her all around me, and therefore I think I was completely blown away by the story, by the fact that there's such a dichotomy, right? Because she's a regular housewife, and then at night she's doing this really seductive show. That got me, when he told me the one line, it got me excited. And then, of course, he fleshed it out and wrote it. And I just felt this is again, definitive for me as an actor, because it gave me a chance to explore yet another aspect of myself that I hadn't on screen.
Are you objective enough, Vidya, to see that, between 2013 and 17, there was a number of films that didn't work for you?
Yeah.
But when you see the success of Temari Salo, are you able to identify about what it was about this film that worked, that maybe didn't click with those other ones?
If I may say so, I think, authentic choices is what it boils down to. Sometimes you do things because now, there was this, everyone was saying, oh, every film of yours is different, every role is different. So then you use that as a reason to choose films. That's not the right reason to be, or that's not the right, reason to do a film, just to be different. So I think there were different reasons for everything, I remember when we were doing Ghan Chakkar, my director told me, you've been criticized so much for your clothes, your sense of style, that we should use that. And I think these are superficial things. And when you're riding a high, you feel like, but whatever I do is going to work. And you don't stop and take time to just ask yourself, why are you doing this film? Why are you doing this role? What is the real reason? Are you doing this to prove a point? Are you doing this because you think you can get away with it? Are you doing this because of the money? Are you doing this? All sorts of things. So I think Temari Salo brought me back to the authentic me. And that's why it worked.
Do you think that filmmakers, you mentioned the director of Ghan Chakkar there, and you played on the fact that you'd been criticised for your wardrobe choices before, and in Mission Mangal you play on the criticism that you received for your weight as well. There's a joke about your weight in Mission Mangal.
No, but that was intrinsic to the script.
It was. But do you think that people mistake the real Vidya Balan with the Vidya Balan on screen? Do you think is that something that you're trying to break away from?
No, I think, directors will always feel tempted to use some aspect of you which is personal, so it, kind of, I don't know what the correct word would be, but when the personal flows into the professional and or the actor side of you, because it's easier to then manipulate your emotions, I would think. But I don't think it was so much the director's problem. I think it was my problem in choosing it. I should have known better and not done it, but I don't regret it. I think I went through a phase when I was probably, again, groping in the dark, and I think this will happen every few years, I'll probably, now Mission Mangal's done really well, and I hope Shakuntala does really well. But I think there will be again a time when I get confused and I stray away from being who I am, and then again I'll come back. This is just part of living and growing.
Well, Vidya, we can't wait to see even more of you on screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Asian Network.